Welcome to Unapologetically Sensitive, where you can learn, relate, laugh, and maybe even live a bolder, brighter life. I'm your host, Patricia Young, licensed clinical social worker. This is a weekly podcast where we explore the strengths we have because of our sensitivity and some of the challenges it poses as well. The information in this podcast is not a substitute for help from a licensed mental health professional. Hey there, this is bonus episode 34. My plan is to release regular weekly episodes on Tuesdays, and when I'm able to, I'm doing a bonus episode on Thursdays. I've been pretty consistent. No guarantee it'll keep on the bonus or just kind of extra goodies for you. In this episode, I get really vulnerable. Something happened and I just decided to do a recording about it. I'm not going to tell you too much about it because you'll hear plenty about it when it starts. It's kind of interesting. I usually am right on schedule with getting episodes out, but when I had recorded this a few weeks ago, I had already loaded a couple of episodes and bonus episodes to go out, and so now you're getting to hear it. The fact that this happened a couple of weeks ago kind of adds to my perspective. Although I'm really willing to show you what it looks like when I'm having strong feelings, strong reactions, and my wounding comes up, what I'm really modeling is how to do life in the moment on life's terms. I think that we tend to feel like we're being sensitive and emotional, and you know what? It takes a tremendous amount of strength, courage, and willingness to not only feel deep feelings, but to be able to talk about them with the people that we're feeling hurt by in the moment. And for me to be able and willing to allow others to see my process. This is one of my superpowers, and this is why I share it with you, because I don't feel like we really have an opportunity to see what goes on for people in the moment. My hope is that you will identify with some of the things that go on with me, and you will see this as having strength and courage. I mean, if you see it as a weakness, you see it as a weakness. I have no control over that, but I really want to reframe that. Life is going to hand us stuff, and I think that we have this idea that if we have enough tools and if we're healed, we don't get shaken or rocked by this stuff. That just is not the case. We're humans. We feel things. We react. We've got wounding. We've got history. It means being willing to have difficult conversations in the moment when we're feeling hurt. It's about the process of being able to show up and talk about what's going on with people that can manage what's going on with us. That's where the healing happens. So I'm going to let you listen to this episode, and at the end, I'm going to hop on and give you an update since I talk about wanting to make some changes, so I'll let you know where I'm at with that. What I do want to talk about is, to put this into context, since August, there have been a lot of changes. I launched my twins off to college. I launched the podcast in the end of October. My mom was going through some pretty serious health challenges. Then my son was hospitalized. I've been making some major shifts in my practice. So I went from having a very full practice and then making some adjustments so that it really worked to fit my lifestyle. But things got pretty quiet on the business front for a while. So things were really out of balance. I was having a lot of fear about financial insecurity, which comes up for me at intervals. I have had times when I've taken vacations, I've taken classes, I've nurtured my creativity. And just letting you know this so that even though I'm talking about this kind of very difficult time, I want to put it in context and in perspective. And I think that what happens is that when we go through these periods, we tend to forget about all the other times when things have been in balance because we're feeling like this is just how it is and it's never going to change. And then the final thing is, in this episode, I talk about my husband not responding to me. But what I want you guys to know is he is my anchor. He's my rock. He's dependable. He's deeply committed to me and to our relationship. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes people don't show up for us the way that they want to. That's part of what we get to work through in relationships. It's not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker. It sucks in the moment. But again, we need to pull back and be reminded of how does this fit in the big picture of things. And I think because we're such deep feelers and thinkers, when things come up, it feels like this is the only experience that there is. And we kind of forget that this is One piece in a much bigger experience. So here you go, onto the episode. Hey there. So this is a vulnerability episode. Not even sure if I'm going to air it. I'm just jumping on to talk. It's really been an interesting week. Twice a year, my husband goes to Laughlin for pleasure. This is the first time that he's gone and the kids have been away at school. And it's not that I have a problem being alone. I lived alone for many years before my husband and I were together. But this is where a number of issues around wounding come up. And I feel like I'm going to go in so many directions because there's just so much going on. So before he goes, what usually comes up is my abandonment wounds. Well, there are two things. So the abandonment wound comes up, which is, you're leaving me. I just want you out. Like, I don't want to feel any of the feelings around it, so just leave. And I end up feeling resentful. I want him to do more stuff before he leaves. And he's really gracious about this. Like, this is really all about me. And I love the fact that he knows what fills him up and that he does it. I want him to be fulfilled. And the second part of this is me really starting to see how I haven't done a great job of doing the things that fulfill me. I kind of get a little distant, and then once he leaves, I remember how well I function when he's gone. I actually function better when he's not here. And this kind of ties into that second thing of me not taking care of myself. But when he's home, I tend to leave the dishes for him to do. In the morning, I pull the covers on the bed up because it's important to him, but I don't put the pillows on. And with him gone this week, I really got the house in shape. My mom had a meeting here at our house because our house is bigger, and I wasn't going to clean the house. And then I looked around at the house and was just ashamed at how, housework is just not my thing. And so I spent a few hours in the morning of the day she was having people over. I really just cleaned and cleared out some clutter and dusted and got some things that had just been kind of sitting around in the corners for a while. And it really kicked me into that place that I was in probably before I had kids, where I really stayed on top of things, and putting things away was really important. I tend to come and go with a bag full of stuff when I have a few mobile clients left. I'm switching to an online practice, but I tend to leave with a lot of stuff. We've talked about my stuff. So I'll come home and I'll dump my stuff on the table, and that includes a couple of glass water bottles, and I'll leave them there, and my purse, and then, I switch purses and I leave stuff on the table. And so it gets really cluttery. So I cleaned up all of that. And this week I've really been mindful when I come home to put everything away. And it's interesting. I was curious to see what would happen with the bed since I didn't have to make it this week. The truth is I've made it every day and I put all the pillows on. Like, I'm really appreciating the sense of cleanliness and order and structure. And at night I make sure that I wash up all the dishes or put them in the dishwasher so that it's clean and clear when I come in the morning. So it's really been helpful for me. And then the other thing is the dog, that Steve walks the dog in the morning, usually while I'm still in bed. You guys, I'm feeling really vulnerable about talking about all of my very human ways because I am. So it's not uncommon for me to wake up 4 or 5 in the morning, and I stay in bed till 7, sometimes 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm on social media, I'm on my phone, I'm playing games. It's cold. I don't want to get out of bed. And there's really not a push. And then I often will not shower and clean up if I don't have clients. So when Steve is gone, it forces me to make a decision about, am I going to get up and am I going to exercise and put on exercise clothes? Am I going to take a shower while the dog is eating so that I can take her out? And then he usually walks her a couple times a day. And so with him gone, it means that I've needed to step up and to take her for walks because she's blind. We don't really take exercise walks, and she can go a certain amount and then she doesn't really want to walk anymore. So it's really more of an exercise of getting out. And because she is blind, she really likes to stop and smell a lot of things, which I'm fine letting her do. It's one of her few little sensory input things that she enjoys. But it's just another way where it's really allowed me to step up. So I have to get out of bed in the morning. I need to either get dressed, I need to take a shower. So I function much better when he's not here. So what this brought up for me is seeing how he loves going to concerts, and he has a friend, and the two of them go to concerts probably, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 a month. Maybe it's not that much. I don't know. And then he goes to Laughlin twice a year. He goes by himself in January. And then in the summertime, same friend, they go to Laughlin together. And I realized that I was feeling resentful, like he knows what he wants and he does it. There are a couple things that go on for me. I have a lot of money, I don't even know what you call it, scarcity, lack, beliefs around money. And so that's one of the reasons why I end up not doing some of the things that I really want to do. And there's a place in town where it's called Glass Fusion. And I've made some really nice pieces of jewelry there before where you put pieces of glass together and they put it in a kiln. I haven't done it because I don't want to spend the money. It's crazy. And when I look at Steve is really good at taking care of himself and doing what fills him up. And I don't begrudge him that. That's how life is supposed to be. And yet I don't afford that to myself. We've been poloing back and forth while he's been gone. We've had some great discussions and he's totally supportive of me nurturing my creativity and doing what I need to do. And if I want to take vacations, I can take vacations. It's just interesting to see the things that hold me back. So as this week has gone on, I've done a really good job of keeping the house clean and being organized and structured, and that's felt really nice. The thing that has been shifting for me, and again, feeling vulnerable in a number of aspects, my relationships have really shifted. What I really believe is happening is that the relationships that don't work have cleared the way, and it's creating space to create some new relationships. With this podcast, starting to talk about what's important to me, I feel like I've really done a shift and am really owning what my strengths are and seeing what I want in relationships. And I want relationships that are really reciprocal. I don't want to be the one that's reaching out all the time. I want people in my life that think about what's going on, that own their stuff, that really want to have deep, meaningful conversations. I have this with my best friend, Laura, and I have this with my husband, but it's pretty limited right now. There are some other people in my life, and I'm feeling self-conscious. If you're listening and I'm not mentioning you, I can't talk about every single relationship. Many people I feel close to, they're busy, they have their own lives, they don't have the same need for connection than I do. It's not a bad thing, and I need more things in my life that are going to fill me up and give me that sense of satisfaction and feed my creativity and feed my need for connection. I just have a stronger need for connection than some other people do. There have been parts about this week that have been hard because I'm not having that sense of balance anymore. The many relationships have kind of dwindled away and there's space waiting to create some new relationships, but they're just not there yet. So as the week wore on, it got a little bit more challenging for me, and I was poloing to Laura and to my husband about how I was feeling and how it was feeling hard. So on Thursday at 1:30 in the afternoon, how do I know that? Because I went back and I looked and I listened. I'd poloed my husband, and I didn't hear from him for the rest of the day. And I listened back to the polo because I thought maybe I'm just not clear. But I was very clear about what I was struggling with. What I didn't do and what I generally don't do is say, I really need some support. Can you call me? Or to text him and say, hey, can you reach out to me? And this is a place where the intersection of our wounding and having something real go on in the moment. I mean, it's real. I'm not as connected as I have been. He's gone. Laura's busy. I'm needing a sense of connection, and I reach out, and what I don't do is the call to action. Let him and Laura know what I need. And to send a text or to call because they may not watch the polo for a while. Coincidentally, Laura also had a really busy day, and I didn't really hear from her until late in the evening on Thursday. So this, combined with my wounding and just everything that's going on, culminated in a part of me that I hate even telling you about. The part of me that just feels really young and wounded. Forget it. I don't need you. If I swore, I would swear and use the word that rhymes with duck, because that's the word that I use when I'm feeling hurt and angry. I don't need you. I don't want you. I'm fine. I'm going in my cave. And then it was interesting. The following day, which is today, I got a polo from Laura. Well, last night she poloed and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, it's been a really busy day. I haven't had a chance to listen to your polos." So she had no idea what was going on. And this morning she poloed and I was walking the dog listening to a podcast. And I just had this is my hurt wounded plate. Like, I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch it now while you're poloing me. Just see what it's like when I'm not available to you. That is coming from a place of wounding. As the morning progressed, I think Laura texted me about something and I told her I was in my cave, which started a polo with her. And of course I started crying. And then my husband texted me to let me know he's on his way back from his trip. I've got some podcast interviews today and I'm feeling kind of chilly towards my husband because I'm feeling hurt. And I didn't want him to come home. And I thought it's possible that he heard that I'm lonely. So he's like, great, I'm going to come home early in the morning on Friday instead of spend the day in Laughlin. I'm going to come home to be with you. And my thing is, you didn't hear me or see me when I told you I was feeling hurt. And so he's going to come home thinking that he's doing this great thing coming home early. And I'm like, what the heck? That's the story I'm making up in my head. So when he texted me this morning, I'm just like, I'm not responding to you because, again, that wounding came up and I didn't really share what I was needing. So once all this stuff started to open up, I poloed both of them and was crying. I owned what was going on for me, didn't blame them or make them wrong, but said this is what happened. My husband, bless his heart, looked a little tearful when he poloed me back and he just didn't hear me. And it's possible as you can tell, I kind of rattle on about all kinds of things. It's not an excuse, but he felt really bad. We'll talk when he gets home. And then Laura and I have been having an ongoing discussion. And part of what she shared, and it's true, is that there are times when we are going to be alone. We got to be alone with our stuff and we can't get that connection. And how do I work on healing that woundedness? And we were talking about maybe there's a code word that I can text her when I'm in this place so that she knows. And it really made me realize that I'm willing to express that I'm hurt, but I get to this place and I don't do the next step of finding different ways to reach out and let people know what I'm needing. So I recreate those wounds and that injury to myself, and then I can replay the narrative of nobody's here for me. And I recognize, and I even said to my husband in the polo, like, I know you're here for me. I know you support me. In this case, I did not feel seen and heard, and it felt really, really hurtful. I share these things with you because I don't care who we are. I don't care if we're therapists and we've had a lot of therapy. We're human and we have things that come up and they impact us. We may not talk about it. We may not share about it. I'm not saying every therapist has the same issues that I do. Maybe there are therapists that, I don't even mean to get into a thing about therapists, but I often feel very sensitive to the fact that as a therapist, I'm willing to be really vulnerable and transparent with you because I'm a human. And no matter who we are, we're all humans first. And I want to model how I work through things and share what my hurts and my vulnerabilities are in a way that makes it seem like it's not such a terrible thing. It did not feel good in the moment when I was feeling it. I don't like going into that place of where I feel really disempowered and angry. It's not how I generally operate in the world. And I work through it, and I have an opportunity to see that if I'm needing something, I really need to let people know. It's not realistic to expect people to know when I'm needing something. And in the same breath, if Steve or Laura were needing me and they didn't tell me, like, I would be there in a heartbeat, but I can't tell when they're just saying they're struggling and when they're saying I'm struggling and I need some help right now. I'm going to have to sit with this one and see how comfortable I am releasing it. It's really challenging for me when I'm in the middle of things to have the perspective about whether or not I want to share things because it does feel really risky and really vulnerable and that fear of being judged. And I always go back to this, that the reason why I have this podcast is that I want people to have a sense of connection and belonging and to know that the things that we struggle with are all pretty normal and average, that we all have wounding, we all have issues that we work through. These are strengths. Being able to feel deeply is a strength. Being able to communicate how I feel is a strength. Being able to communicate and not blame or shame or make anybody wrong is a strength. Did it feel comfortable to feel this way? No. Did it feel vulnerable to share how I was feeling? Of course. And these relationships can tolerate it, and this is how I grow. The relationships can handle the conflict. This is how we work things out. I hope you found this helpful. If there are relationships that you're struggling with, if these are themes that you see that are coming up for you and you live in California, I do online telehealth, which is incredibly powerful. I really was doubtful that I could have a good connection with someone over a computer. And I've got to tell you guys, I feel really connected to my clients, and the clients that have been willing to try it feel really connected via telehealth. If you're interested in working with me, reach out to me at Patricia Young, lcsw.com. I offer a free phone consultation, and if you want to try out an online call, we can do an online call so that you can see what you think. So if you're in California, we can do that. It's incredibly powerful. Thanks for listening to the episode. What I want to share with you are some of the things that I did to kind of make some changes. One of the things that happened is I realized that I kind of needed to shift from my thinking brain to my creative brain. So I started looking for podcasts on creativity and podcasts that had comedy. I realized I needed more fun, I needed more laughter and lightness. I needed to have a shift in perspective. I have taken over walking the dog, and it was a really good decision. It gets me up and going in the morning, and I know that I do better with structure. I've been keeping up with the dishes and the clutter and making the bed. And for me, it really gives me a sense of esteem and pride. And again, back to that thing with structure, I just do really well when I have a little bit of structure. I took a Zentangle class, and by the time you hear this, it will be in the past, but I hired an instructor to come to my home tomorrow and to teach a Zentangle class. A couple of friends are coming over. I have a few more that I've signed up for. They call it Zentangle because the Zen it's meditative. You're doing a repetitive pattern, so your mind really doesn't have time to focus. And when I was going through this kind of really challenging period, I took a Zentangle class, and for that time that I was in the class, it really gave me some relief from the overthinking that was going on, kind of just that yucky stuff that goes on with us. I did go to Glass Fusion. I made a couple of pendants. So I'm starting to regenerate that part of my creativity. I have a beading class that I may go to on Saturday. I'm looking for some jewelry making classes because my skills have just gotten kind of rusty. And then I had a dry spell with relationships and with business and with asking people to be on the podcast. And it really made me think that I'm just wondering if sometimes we just need to sit with that emptiness for a while. Now, on the relationship front, I have my Colorado Alliance. There are two therapists that I've been poloing with, Dara and Ari, and it's really been sweet. It's been incredibly satisfying as we're getting to know each other. It kind of reminds me of dating. We're not dating, but just in that way of when you meet somebody new and trying to figure out how much contact works for each of you, how do you communicate, all of those things. For business this week, I got 2 new clients for having this period where I just wasn't getting any contact. All of a sudden, I got 2 new clients this week. And then for the podcast, I've really been doing a lot of asking what I feel like are some big reaches to have guests on the podcast. And again, for a while, I just wasn't hearing anything back. And after having that episode with Sarah Wachter-Betcher, where we talked about hearing a no is sometimes better because you can move on, there's a part of me that gets that. And I feel like I was kind of held in limbo for a long time. And then all of a sudden, people started responding. So things really have shifted from the time that I did that recording. And we just need to kind of go through difficult times. And then it's like riding the wave. You know, we lean into it, we ride the crest, and then on the down times, we just sort of lean into it. All right. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. If you're enjoying this podcast, please rate and review. It makes the podcast easier for others to find. You can rate it on your iPhone in the podcast app, or you can go to unapologeticallysensitive.com and click on one of the more recent episodes, and there are instructions and links in the show notes so you can rate this podcast. If you have questions or comments, I love hearing from you. please reach out to me at unapologeticallysensitive@gmail.com. We have a closed Facebook group called Unapologetically Sensitive where we're building a great community. Remember, sensitivity is nothing to apologize for. It's our superpower. Have a blessed day.